Good morning, and today is a Wednesday. Although, as I read in the news, there's still parts of the Bicol region which don't have power, but actually, this lesson is intended for those typhoon affected areas and to explain also to everyone what's the function of the NDRRMC. And if you notice in the lesson plan published in last Sunday, there was a sudden change because the team sees it. There's a need also, and it's timely to explain the functions and powers of the NDRRMC because I noticed that there are those people who make it even like they joke about the text coming from NDRRMC, such that they would say that only their exes, it's only NDRRMC that remembers them and not even their boyfriends or girlfriends or their exes. Now, today's lesson will highlight actually provisions of the NDRRMC. Now, the NDRRMC is the acronym for the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council of the Philippines, and it is composed of the following key positions of the government: the chairman or chairperson of the DND, or the National Department of National Defense Secretary, the DILG Secretary, the DSWD, DOST, and NEDA Director General. Or if you notice that it is, we have several areas of concern for the four chairpersons: the disaster preparedness and the disaster response, disaster prevention and mitigation, and disaster rehab and recovery. If you noticed that it is Pag-asa, which is under the DOST, which makes the announcement, like the typhoon, what would be happening or what would be going on for the next 24 hours, for the next 2 days. And also you have the FIVOX if there's an earthquake, or the possible after effects of earthquake like tsunamis. And another, these are the members of the NDRRMC: the DOH Secretary, DNR, the DA or Department of Agriculture, DepEd or the Department of Education, and also the Department of Energy, especially that the energy sector is very much needed when power lines are not functioning or there's no energy or power during calamities. And this is very true during a typhoon or when an earthquake struck the Philippines or any area of the country, then power lines may be affected or is down. The Department of Finance, especially in when it comes to the release or the providing of relief goods to our affected Filipino citizens. Now, other members too are the DTI Secretary, the DOTC, the DBM or the Department of Budget and Management, DPWH. This is very, very material or crucial, especially when it comes to road repairs, especially that when there's a disaster, especially typhoon, the most affected structure or infrastructure would be our roads and highways. And it's very hard to provide the relief goods and provide assistance also to our fellow men if the roads could not be accessed. Also, with the DTI, the function of the DTI basically is to check on the prices and the possible sudden or like skyrocketing of the inflation rates, especially that there would be high demand and no goods during a disaster or calamity. Now, other members would be the DOLE Secretary, the Department of Tourism, the Executive Secretary. It refers to the Presidential the Executive Secretary, and the Secretary of the Office of the Presidential Advisor on the Peace Process, or OPAP. This is very important because even those not in the, let's say, I really don't like the word, but leftist, they say, but even if these specific groups of people, they should still be assisted by the government, being the as part of the parents patrie principle. Now, chair of CHED and the AFP, or the Armed Forces of the Philippines Chief of Staff. Now, another set of members would be the PNP chief, because especially it's the police that are also considered as the frontliners, and especially when after the calamity there would be high crime rates. That's a possibility. So the PNP officers will be deployed for peacekeeping in the area. Now, press secretary for possible announcement, and this is very crucial because information is the key to preparedness, actually. And the Secretary General of the Philippine National Red Cross, or PNRC, and the Commissioner of the National Anti-Poverty Commission, Victims of Disasters and Calamity Sector. This is very important again, because actually it is always the marginalized, the poor, who are very much affected because they don't have the resources to be prepared, and in fact they're very dependent on what the government provides. The chair of the National Commission on the Role of Filipino Women, and it's a global fact also that women are also considered as part of the marginalized sectors of society. And lastly would be, or no, this is going to be the last, second to the last set of members as listed in our NDRRMC law. Now, the chair of the Housing and Urban Development Coordinating Council, this is, it functions mainly on, like, if there are, especially during the typhoon, many would lose their houses, and they would not know where they will be living after the disaster. And even not just even in during earthquake, but also volcanic eruption, especially that in the Philippines we have very active volcanoes. And also the executive director of the Climate Change Office of the Climate Change Commission. This is one of the highlights that I will be dealing with in a while. And the president of the GSIS, SSS, and PhilHealth. Um, it would increase also the number of people that would need medical assistance and even admission in our hospitals. So PhilHealth is very material. The President of the Union of Local Authorities of the Philippines, the President of the League of Provinces of the Philippines, including the municipalities, cities, and liga ng mga barangay. And you have to remember that there are also four representatives from the civil society organizations and one representative from the private sector, and also the administrator of the Office of the Civil Defense. So second part of this lesson will tackle actually of the powers and functions of the OCD, or Office of the Civil Defense. Now, among the powers and functions of the NDRRMC are as follows: develop a national framework and national plan for this disaster risk reduction and management. And also, this is the one that explains why we receive text messages and even breaking news on the status of typhoon or earth after effects of the earthquake, and also during volcanic eruptions. Establish a national early warning and emergency alert system to provide accurate and timely advice to national or local emergency response organizations, and remember, to the general public in whatever means or media, like digital, like text messages, television, and radio. And lastly, for this part, you have the powers and functions. Develop an assessment tools on the existing and potential hazards and risk brought about by climate change. So this is a way of recognizing the ill effects, or the consequences of climate change, and this is manifested the effects, especially flooding. That's one thing, especially that the Philippines is an island state, although we are not considered as a small island state just like those in the South Pacific, but still the Philippines is very vulnerable of the effects of climate change. And the chairman has to call on the reserve force to assist in relief and rescue during disasters or calamities. I can really relate on this because we have the Reservist Act of the Philippines, or RA 7077, and I'm a Navy reservist also. And the reservist force includes the Navy, the Armed Forces, and the Army and the Air Force. So, in case there's no regular force, then the reserve force will be deployed to the affected areas. So I hope in this very short video you learned something, and it also help you understand why we get text messages, especially before Rolly struck the Philippines. Thank you so much, and please don't forget to like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and to check on our website, which is an ongoing work for the team. You take care, and especially for those Filipinos, our fellow men who are in the affected areas in the southern Tagalog. You take care, and thank you so much.